I'm still a small town boy from New Zealand. So when I'm deep down inside myself, I still pinch myself and go, wow, you just build dreams. It's a dream factory.
And I think the advantage that you've also had is you've met so many interesting people at the top end of the market that have been very successful in their own right.
If you work hard enough, and that's the thing, it's not given to us. We have to earn it. We have to work for it. It's certainly been a fast track from going from a good agent to a great agent. Surround yourself with people that are going to help make that journey easier. Don't make it harder than it has to be.
It's been a pleasure to watch you grow and watch your team grow and watch you achieve all your personal goals over the last 3.5 to 4 years. So, Rob, you've been with the business now for circa 4 years, and you've been in real estate since 2007. Tell us a bit about your journey in joining Kollosche, the difference that you've seen working with our company as opposed to some of the other organisations that you previously worked in, and what some of the secrets to your success have been over the past 4 years, because we've seen your career and personal development really go ahead in leaps and bounds since joining the business. You've 4x'd your best year in the first 12 months, and it's been pretty exciting to see. So can you just maybe expand a little bit on that for people that don't know the history of Rob Lamb?
So Rob Lamb, been with Kollosche now since April 2018. Actually started in real estate in 2007, cut my teeth at Ray White Broadbeach. I was actually working along at that point in time, MK. I remember it very, very vividly. My first day in real estate, with a desk, with a phone, sales board right there, and all my hopes and dreams in the telephone and in the call sheets. And it was a great environment. It was really a great place to be nurtured in real estate. And I remember you coming through after a weekend just writing these unbelievable sales up on the board, and I was like, wow, this guy's just absolutely crushing it. And here I was thinking, where do I make my impact? Where do I start? And I guess for me, I just always felt like I had to earn my stripes, I guess. So I think I started selling, 3-story walk-up apartments. I think the average sale was like about $300,000. I remember at the time I didn't have many listings, so literally went around all the other agents and said, if you've got anything that you can't open up, I'm happy to work it. From my very first weekend, I think I was doing 7 or 8 open homes, running from building to building, familiarizing myself with a contract, with negotiations. It was a pretty exciting time because in 2007, if you remember, it was a pretty hot market. I didn't know what a hot market was at that time, although that was pretty normal. And watching your career and my career sort of evolve, gradually sort of graduated out of those walk-up apartment sort of style apartments, started hitting the high-rises, and became really familiar with the high-rise market. I've been in and out of many businesses, Ray White, McGrath, Harcourts, great businesses in their own right, but that franchise model for me, it never really sat, that well. I'm a bit of a team player, as you know. And I just found in those businesses, you were more sort of isolated. You did your own thing and that was fine. That was a little bit, that prevented a lot of my growth, I think, because I really vibe off people. I get the energy off other people. Other people give me confidence as well. You've instilled massive amounts of confidence in me. I always knew I had the ability, but when you've got someone on your back patting you along going, you can do it, go for it, I think that just really brings you to a space that you can be comfortable in.
So when you were at Harcourts, what was your average sale price there?
I think my average sale price was about $700,000.
Yep.
Yeah, about 700.
Yep. And these days, you're selling properties at what sort of level?
Typically anywhere between $2 million to $4 million. My focus is a lot on that luxury apartment market. So that would normally anything from $2 million and upwards would classify as a luxury apartment. I think I've become more mature. I think as far as age and experience, when you combine those two together, it just brings you to the table to have really meaningful discussions with buyers, with sellers. You've got life experience. And the other key thing which you instilled in me straight away was surround yourself with people that are going to help make that journey easier. Don't make it harder than it has to be. So in doing so, I took on a PA, I took on a marketing client services manager, just taken on a sales associate, and all these things are really just to streamline my team and what I do, so I can focus on, giving my clients the best services possible. And I think that was the big shift. One of the big shifts. I think there's been multiple big shifts. Naturally, when you start selling those really high-end prices, it just gives you that feeling of, wow, that's amazing. Let's do that again. Let's go out and list some amazing, cracking properties, sell them, and that experience alone is highly addictive. It's character forming, and no other business that I've ever been in have I grown so much personally, but also seen so many other people within the business grow as well, which is exciting.
So tell me about the experience with Rob Lamb. If someone was to list their property with you, your service guarantee, the roles in which your team are fulfilling, and how having a team around you has really helped you be consistent with your levels of service and your follow-up. I always look to see that you're constantly on the phone, constantly following everyone up. Your team are getting testimonials coming through all the time saying how good the entire experience has been for both buyer and seller. So just maybe expand a little bit on that for the audience.
Well, it all starts from the initial meetup. Our expectations are really, really high. We want to deliver the sort of service that we would classify as being 5 or 6 star. We anticipate what that owner wants or that buyer wants, and we deliver it before they often ask. So there's really no stone that's left unturned as far as what we feel is most going to benefit either the buyer or the seller. If fortunately enough, I've got a great bunch of experienced people around me in our team, and I think that really takes the pressure off and allows me to focus on what I need to do. So you're right, I'm on the phone constantly. We're doing inspections, we're doing negotiations. So my mind is focused entirely on how can I move this property forward and get the desired result for the seller. And I think that's really important. The communication side to it, again, absolutely critical. If I don't have other people picking up what I need done, then it takes me away from communicating. And I always find if the communication's not there, then that's where the service starts to fall over. So critical for us that every key client is communicated to almost daily, and they're just kept informed with that whole process. So as far as our business is concerned, we reflect the Kollosche brand. We just think, we're a 5-star, high-performing office, and to operate at that level, naturally you'll get the results that you come to expect that we're delivering on a daily, weekly basis. So
and you're carrying a number of listings at the moment between sort of 10 and 25 million. Some amazing properties that you've just listed that you're taking to market. So as well as having a focus on stuff between that sort of 2 and 5 million as your bread and butter apartment stock through the coastline of the Gold Coast, you're also focusing on a lot of the larger estates as well, and transacting on a few of those.
Yeah, look, I'd probably classify my main focus on luxury apartments, but also lifestyle. So within lifestyle, that incorporates some hinterland properties, rural estates, and I think the great thing about that is you've got a little bit of variety in what we do. I mean, we've got some incredible properties. We've sold some amazing properties as well. So when I think back and think of those big sales, it's exciting. And the properties we have listed at the moment, anything from 10 million to 25 million. The ability to show and meet buyers at that level, at that range, you've got to be at the top of your game. And I think at this point in time, we're really up there. The client has the ultimate amount of trust in us to be confident we can handle that. And you've instilled that in me, as well as the results that we've had in the past. So yeah, we'll keep listing these beautiful hinterland properties, and also the luxury apartment market, beachside, and in around those inner suburbs around the beaches. So from my experience and my working with buyers over a long period of time, just come to understand it's really about how the apartment fits into their desires, into their wants. What do they need that property actually for? in 2007, I think in the next few years, it was more of an investor market. I think the developers were building buildings specifically to cater for that investor market. Sydney-centric, Melbourne people, even people from Brisbane that were looking for a weekender, something to, spend their weekends in, offset that time they're not using it with some holiday letting, something like that. And gradually, I think we've just evolved out of that market. And maybe this is just due to the aging population. But I really feel now the market for the apartment side of things is really swung around, and it's really focusing more on an owner-occupier market. What do you think about that?
Yeah, look, I think we've seen a big change in our local market. There's a lot of downsizers now, and as you said, the aging population that are relocating either from interstate or moving off the river or canals into a lock up and leave scenario where they can go travelling and have no maintenance. The quality of the buildings that are being developed these days, the amenities that are coming with them, and also the convenience of living above or beside a retail dining precinct and opposite the beach is really appealing to a lot of people. And I think probably you've still got that investor market, but I would say a big focus of our business and operating in that prestige sector of the market is that we're dealing with that type of product a lot more, and you don't get as many investors buying into there unless they are people that are buying them as a second home, looking to get a return on them in the meantime, but with a view that they're going to relocate up in years to come and wanting to get a foothold into the market so they can ride it up or down and be in it for later in their life. And
I totally agree with that, and that's, I guess, where a lot of the buyer inquiries coming from. But the other part to that, I think, is the new developers entering into the market. Typically we had Gold Coast centric developers that were focusing just on, I guess, a pretty narrow market, which was the investor market. But I think in the last few years, what's really excited me is seeing developers coming out of Melbourne, Sydney, even Brisbane, which I think have got a different vision for the Gold Coast. I think they see a lot more potential in areas where perhaps the local developers have just kept taking their eye off. For instance, Main Beach. Main Beach was typically, high rises built through the 80s and 90s. A lot of probably the older clientele living in there, populating Tedder Avenue, the Yacht Club and things like that. But there's really a rejuvenation into that area with these really sophisticated, residential style apartments. They don't have a big footprint, but they're really high on amenity, high on quality, beautiful floor plans and finishes, really catering to those people that are looking at moving up here and actually occupying that property full time. Look at areas like Garfield Terrace, for example. You've got, old dilapidated sort of 2 and 3 story buildings, which, are occupying absolute prime beachfront property. And I think it's great to see those getting knocked down. I don't know about you, but every time I drive by and I see those old buildings, I just think, wow, what an opportunity to create an amazing beachfront location with amazing properties. You've got Coast going in there, Royale, you've got Aspire, and they're just really complementing the existing residential buildings that are already there. But it's catering to that demand, which I think we've really seen over the last few years. The COVID's really probably opened a lot of people's eyes up to the idea of moving out of the city and moving up to the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I think the other thing there is when you're talking about those markets, you can apply the same to Burleigh, you can apply the same to all the southern end of the Gold Coast where local developers had certain preconceived ideas that we cannot achieve any higher than X rate per square metre in this market, so this isn't going to stack, or we can't do that, or there won't be the right volume or demand of buyers for this type of product in Rainbow Bay, in Tweed Heads, D-Bar, Burleigh Heads and Palm Beach. And then you look through this last cycle at some of the rates that people have achieved for new product down there on some of the boutique high-end developments, and it's quite astounding. But it just shows that that anywhere along our coastal strip here is in high demand, and people flock here for the lifestyle. And so I think if you build it and you do a really good job of it, there will be the demand for that product. It's just those that come in and they focus wholly and solely on profit and how much they can squeeze out of every project won't necessarily survive a changing market. But these other products where they're still limited but high quality, there appears to be a lot of depth now to pick that up at prices that we never thought were possible. So it's been interesting times, and I think the next decade will be interesting as well.
And I think looking at who our buyer demographic is, typically we're looking at people from probably about 55 years and up for that luxury apartment market. They're CEOs, they're executives, self-funded retirees. I mean, over successive property cycles, particularly living in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane, they've picked up on these massive property price increases. They've accumulated properties, investment properties, principal residences over decades, really, to bring them to a point now where they've got a pretty massive war chest of equity and cash to be able to put into that property. And I think this is the thing that's not scaring them off or not really bothering them, because when they're in their 60s and 70s, I think they really focus mostly just on getting the right property, right? They don't have a problem spending $15,000 per square metre, $20,000 square metre, and more than that, provided they know that that property is going to fulfill what their requirements are out of it over the next 10, 15, even 20 years. And I think some of these properties on the beachfronts, for example, I envisage they'll be legacy properties. They'll probably be handed down through the family and utilised by the rest of their sort of families and friends for years to come. You won't see those transactions like as frequently, but there is still demand. So I think the developers have nailed it. I think they've identified their market. They're building sophisticated buildings that cater to all those things that people want, and in absolute prime locations. I'm often getting email inquiries, right? Because people typically, when they're looking at apartments in particular, the initial inquiry comes through via email. So once I give them the call back, it's interesting to see what their non-negotiables are, I guess, and really drill down to find out what they really want in the property. But there seems to be a lot of confusion because it's difficult for them to identify and isolate which are the best buildings to, particularly sort of focus on, and areas as well. And like you say, Palm Beach, as an example, wasn't an area on many people's radar 3 or 4 years ago, but it certainly is now. There's some great buildings down there, Levee, Temple, you've got some Pacific. There's some really high-end quality builds down there where maybe people weren't looking at that area in particular, but now they can get in there probably maybe 15% below what they might be paying in Main Beach or on the beachfront in Broad Beach. So it's starting to open people's eyes up to different avenues and different areas, I think, that are worthwhile. What are you finding as far as your clients in terms of the apartment side to things? I'm finding they're okay with buying off the plan at the moment, particularly in these sort of high-end residential ones. The ones that are already built are typically probably anywhere from 3 to 25, 30 years old. So they're happy to wait maybe 3 years until something comes up. Are you finding that?
Yeah, look, I think they're looking for location, but the Gold Coast has definitely matured a lot through this last cycle. A lot more infrastructure, better transport, easier to get around. So I think look, all those markets are becoming very appealing, and there's only a limited amount of supply. And I think over the next 10 years, it'll be an enormous amount of development, and the skyline will change. I look back the last 20, 25 years at what's occurred since then. So exciting times ahead for all of us. Maybe tell us a bit about your goals and ambitions. So you joined Kollosche, you had your white Lexus, and told me that you were more than happy with that car, and you had no ambitions to change or get anything better, and you were happy where you were living and happy with where you're at in life, and just comfortable, and you'd saved enough money, and you just wanted to to sort of cruise along, and then now you're flying ahead in leaps and bounds, and been more successful than maybe you ever thought possible. And
you know what? I think you surround yourself with successful people, and it rubs off on you. I think when I was at those other businesses, you've got a little bit of a narrower perspective. You're not seeing people achieving, massive highs in the industry. So you're setting the bar at a level where you're most comfortable. And I think my comfort level was having a certain type of car, living in a certain type of property, and doing that. And I felt I'd achieved that. So because I'd reached that level, I was kind of comfortable to stay at that level. You wouldn't let me stay at that level. You sat me down and you said, look, what are your goals? What do you want to do? If you had a car that you wanted to, own, what would that look like? Guess what? 6 months later, I'm in it. I mean, you can't dream this stuff up. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're around people, particularly yourself, you just build dreams. It's a dream factory. If you work hard enough, and that's the thing, it's not given to us. We have to earn it. We have to work for it. But in that, naturally, I think your expectations on yourself go up, and so do your dreams. I'm still a small town boy from New Zealand, so when I'm deep down inside myself, I still pinch myself and go, "Wow, you've really arrived." I'm proud of what I've done, but I also acknowledge who's helped me to get there, and obviously you've been a huge factor in that, as are other team members within the business. It doesn't happen singularly; it's always a collaboration.
It's good to see, and I think the advantage that you've also had is you've met so many interesting people at the top end of the market that have been very successful in their own right. And run very successful businesses, and they've also been really good mentors for you. You've had the ability to sit down with them, and most of them are happy to share, happy to guide. So as well as being clients that we happen to help on a journey that they're going along, and we might be strategic advisors for them around property, we can also turn to them for advice on other things. And I've noticed you've done that well, and you've forged a lot of really good relationships with some of your clients and more affluent people. So, but it's been a pleasure to watch you grow and watch your team grow and watch you achieve all your personal goals over the last 3.5 to 4 years. So,
and it's certainly been a fast track from going from a good agent to a great agent, and where we go from here, who knows? The sky's the limit, but I think we're just in the perfect environment that you've set up where we can all basically work towards those. And it's not only great for me, it's great for my daughter, it's great for my family. And part of what I want to do and what I have been doing, as you know, is helping some of the younger associates, trying to build them up, give them experience. And that's been a really thing that I've enjoyed doing, is just passing on that experience and letting them share in, how to do it, how to be successful, and how to make a really good career out of real estate, which, a lot of people don't know what happens behind the doors. They see us rock up to an open home, put our signs up, stand there in a nice suit and, take their names and numbers. But, it's a 7-day-a-week, 24/7 business. It doesn't stop. And when you sign up to that, you have to really commit. And it's not, a part-timer. You're all in. And I think that's what I love about it. But if you're all in, you better be with people who you love spending time with, because, you're there a lot of the time. And I think every day I walk through those front doors, I just think, wow, everyone's successful. Everyone's doing well. If someone's down, they get lifted up. And the support and nurturing within the business across all levels is second to none. So, and I've been through other agencies, I know, as you have as well. So I think that's a real key to success, is making sure that you're comfortable where you are and you're pushed. There's no complacency at Kollosche. You're pushed, you're challenged. We work for some phenomenal clients that are highly successful in their field, and they come to us for that advice. They trust that we are giving them the best advice, and we're handling that asset for them, which I think is really something that we don't take for granted, which I think that's another shift in that mentality.
Yep, perfect. Thanks for sharing.